Hey guys, so we are doing congruent figures today. By the end of the period or video, you guys will be able to write a correct congruent statement for triangles, mark information in a picture given the congruent statement, write the corresponding side or angle given a picture or a congruent statement, and then use the third angle theorem to solve for a missing angle or to prove that triangles are congruent. So, congruent polygons have congruent corresponding parts. They're matching sides and angles. When you name congruent polygons, you must list corresponding vertices in the same order. So this is the most important part here, okay? We have AB is congruent to EF. So notice how we have the different colors here, okay? So A and E are the same. Those are the same angle. So if we're going to say AB, we would have to say EF. And that is the hardest part about congruent figures, is that you need to make sure that you are keeping things straight. So if you aren't given a figure and you are just given this part here, you can figure out whatever order that first one goes in, the second one matches that. So A goes with E, B goes with F, C goes with G, D goes with H. Okay, and you can see that over here on the other side, we have all of our corresponding sides and angles. So just take a quick look through that. And that is on your notes. So angle A is congruent to angle E, angle B is congruent to angle F, angle C is congruent to angle G, angle D is congruent to angle H, and then all of your segments are also congruent. For example, like for the segments, if we said AB is congruent to FE, that would not be true because F and A are not congruent to each other. It's E and A are congruent. So you need to make sure that it's going in the correct order. This would not be correct. It has to follow the correct or the corresponding vertices. Okay, practice with congruent statements. So our corresponding sides here, we would have, you want to kind of match it up. So what I'm doing when I do this is I kind of do a circle, a square, and a triangle. So if I'm looking, S matches with Z because they both have that single tick mark there. Y matches with U, and then X matches with T. Okay, so or you can color code it with a colored pencil or a highlighter, whatever you want. So SU goes with ZY, UT goes with YX, TS goes with XZ. For the corresponding angles, we have angle S goes with angle Z, angle U is congruent to angle Y, and angle T is congruent to angle X. So as you can see, it's a little easier if you color code each vertice there to figure it out. If all of these are congruent to each other, we can say that angle, well, we know that it's congruent because everything is congruent, but our statement, meaning like we're saying the figure is congruent to the other figure, SUT, you want to follow the same order. So it would be ZYX. Triangle SUT is congruent to ZYX. Okay, so you guys try the next one. Pause it if you need to. Color code it if you need to. So V is the same for both triangles. C goes with W, and X goes with B. So if you need to color code it, and pause it to try. So my congruent sides would be VC is congruent to VW, CB is congruent to WX, and then BV is congruent to XV. My angles, angle XVW is congruent to BVC. So notice why we didn't say angle V is congruent to angle V. you don't know which angle you're talking about. So you have to say each separate one. So we would have, you know, this angle here, and then we'd also have this angle here. So you need to make sure that you are clarifying there when you're describing or labeling your angles. Let's erase this here. Okay. Then we also have angle C is congruent to angle W, and angle X is congruent to angle B. So for our congruent statement, that would be, and it doesn't matter what order you put these in, you just need to make sure it goes with the corresponding vertice. So triangle XVW is congruent to triangle BVC. You could also say triangle VWX is congruent to triangle VCB. Okay, you just need to make sure that it follows the same vertice order. Theorem 4-1 is the third angles theorem. So if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another triangle, then the third angles are congruent. So if we have angle A is congruent to angle D and B is congruent to E, that means angle C is also congruent to F. Because we all know that triangles equal 180. If A and D are the same exact thing and B and E are the same exact thing, the only way for them to both add up to 180 would be for C and F to be the same exact thing. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of practice here. If you guys feel confident, you can try this on your own. If not, it's totally fine. We are just going to find the value of the variables. So we have, if we look at our first part, triangle ABC is congruent to DBE. So I'm going to go and I'm going to either color code it or circle, use triangles, that kind of stuff. So A and D go together. B is obviously by itself. And then C and E go together. So I can figure out, you know, which angle goes with which angle. Okay, so if I know that angle E is 81 and C is congruent to E, I can fill this in as 81 degrees. And then you guys know that a whole entire triangle is 180. So I can add all of these guys up, 51 plus 81 plus x plus 5 equals 180. And then I would solve for x. So if I combine these terms here, I'd get 137. And then I'd want to subtract 137 from both sides, and I would get that x is, whoops, that is very messy, x is 43. And yes, your x's or your variables can be a negative number. Your measures cannot be negative. Your measures of your angles or your sides cannot be negative. Your x's can, or your variables can. Okay, so first off, I'm looking here. So again, color coded if you need to. So A goes, whoops, I didn't want that, I want the highlighter. A goes with K, B goes with L, and then C goes with M. And again, you can color code this, or you can circle things, circle the two that are congruent, then triangle, then square, whatever you feel comfortable with. So I'm going to do the lengths first. So I see that this is 4 inches. AB, whoops, my L went away. My color code on my L. No. Okay. So AB and KL are congruent, okay? Because the whole entire triangle is congruent. So I'm just going to draw a little tick mark there to show that those two are congruent, okay? And then I also know that M is congruent to C and K is congruent to A, okay? And we already know that 90 degrees is congruent. So if you draw tick marks on there, that's going to be a little bit helpful for you when we get further into this. So I'm first going to do the line segment. I know that AB is congruent to KL. So if they're congruent, that means that they also equal each other. So to solve for T, all I need to do is divide by 2. So T equals 2, and I'm done there. Then for the other one, so if I know, I have more information in this triangle here. If I know that M and C are congruent, that means C is 3x, okay? So I can add these guys together, 3x plus 45 plus 90, and set it equal to 180 and solve for x. So if I combine like terms, I got 3x plus 135 equals 180, and then I'd subtract 135 from both sides and get 3x equals 45. Then I'd divide both sides by 3, and I'd get x equals 15. For number 3 then, okay, we have ACD is congruent to ACB. So that means A and C are congruent, like, so both angles in A are congruent, both angles in C are congruent, and then B and D are congruent. Okay, so if that is true, that means that A, this angle, is congruent to this angle. So we just set them equal to each other and solve and get x equals 5. Okay, if you have any questions there, go back and watch the video or send me an email if you need help. So then next, in the diagram, TJM, triangle TJM is congruent to triangle PHS. So here is where you want to definitely draw in some congruence marks or kind of color-coded or circle stuff, that kind of thing. So T and P match up. Okay, so we're gonna go like this. T and P match up. J and H match up. And then M and S match up. Okay, so that being said, angle P is congruent to its color-coded partner there, angle T. Number 2, line segment JM. So be careful here. J goes with H, so H needs to be listed first on your next one, HS. The measure of angle M is equal to what? We know that the measure of angle M and S are exactly the same. So that means that if the measure of angle M and S are the same, the measure of angle M is 48 degrees because S is 48 degrees. Okay. The measure of angle P. Now, we don't have anything there. Oh, yes, we do. Sorry. P and T are the exact same angle. They're congruent to each other, which means their measures are the same. So, angle P is also 73 degrees. MT is the same as SP. So, if SP equals 5 centimeters, MT also has to equal 5 centimeters. For number 5, we have triangle HPS. So we're going yellow, blue, green. So we need to also go yellow, blue, green for the next one. So we'd have JTM, triangle JTM. Okay. Identify any figures that can be proved congruent. Explain your reasoning. For those that can be proved congruent, write a congruent statement. So, any figures. I think, obviously, these two triangles can be proved congruent in all 3 of these questions. So, if you want to do that, and you can say, you know, our little theorem here, the third angles theorem. So here, let's do this. Let's first designate the ones that are similar. So D and F match up. And then, now this is where it gets a little tricky. So this E matches with this G, okay? Then we have our sides that are the same. And this side here is the same because of the reflexive property. GE is congruent to GE. It is the exact same line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say that DE is congruent to FG. And then DG is congruent to FE. And then GE is congruent to GE because of the reflexive property. Sorry, this is a little messy. Then we can do angles. So angle F is congruent to angle D. And angle GE, whoops, let's write this down here. Angle GED is congruent to EGF. Now, if we have two angles that are congruent, that means the other angles in that triangle are also congruent by theorem 4-1. So we can also say that angle FEG is congruent to DGE. Okay, so it definitely depends on where your vertices are, okay? And if all of these things are true, which they are, we can say triangle, and make sure you follow the correct order, DEG is congruent to triangle FGE. That one was a little tricky there. So go ahead and try 7 and 8. Obviously, they're going to be congruent, but make sure that you write down all the statements there. And I'm going to go on to 9 through 14. And I'll just say, so triangle NM. These ones, okay, never mind. I'm going to take it back. So, these lines are all congruent to each other. The angles in both are all congruent to each other. But these lines have a different length than the other ones. So, these cannot be proved congruent because we don't have enough information there. And I think we're going to abbreviate that as NEI, not enough info. Okay, because the sides also have to be congruent in order for things to be proved congruent. Okay, so now 8 then. Let's do this. Or you could say not enough info, or cannot prove, something like that, just to say that there's not enough info there. Okay, so for the next one then, Z goes with X. Y is obviously the same angle because if we have a right angle there, the other side also has to be a right angle because a line adds up to 180 degrees. Okay, then W is the same, or we can assume that it's the same because Z and X are the same, Y is the same, so W has to be, W has to be the same in both triangles as well. Okay, so then we have our ZW is congruent to XW. We also have YW is congruent to YW because of the reflexive property. This here is the same exact line. Then we can say XY is congruent to ZY. Then our angles. So angle X is congruent to angle Z. We know that because they have the same tick marks. Now we have to use, 3 letters there with the vertex in the middle. So we can say that XYW is congruent to ZYW, angle ZYW. Y is the vertex, so it has to be there. And then we can also say that this angle here and here are congruent because if 2 angles in a triangle are congruent, that means that the other angles are congruent. Okay, so we would have XWY is congruent to ZWY, angle ZWY, which means that triangle XYW is congruent to triangle ZYW. Okay, complete the statements here. So this you just kind of want to look at your pieces here. So if triangle WRD is congruent to PLK, so it's WR, so that means I need to have line segment PL. So go ahead and do the rest of those and then check your answers with mine. So SVP and MTQ. So we have a PS, so we would have PN. Oh wait, sorry, going on to 10. Duh. BGT and angle DSN. So T and N would be congruent because they're in the same spot. For 11, it would be QM, line segment QM. 12, XC, so we're going from the backwards to the middle one, it would be line segment PW. For 13, we have triangle KRH. So we're starting with the last term and then going to the front. So it would be OWV, triangle OWV. And then for 14, angle M is congruent to angle D. So then going on to 15 and 16. Given triangle ABC is congruent to DEF. So A is congruent to D, B is congruent to E, C is congruent to F, okay? So find the values of X and Y. You can do this by, congruent sides, congruent angles, that kind of stuff. So we know that D and A are the same exact thing. So I'm going to find that first. 87 equals 5x plus 2. They're congruent. We can set them equal to each other. So then we'd have 85 equals 5x. So x would equal 17. Now, if I know that that's 17 and I know that B and E are the same, we can make 42 my B as well because these two are congruent. So to find y, I can just add 87 plus 42 plus 3y and set it equal to 180 to get y by itself. So we would have if we combine these two, I'd have 129 plus 3y equals 180. Subtract the 129, you get 3y equals 51, and then divide by 3 on both sides, so you get 17. Same thing with the next one. You guys try that one and then come back and check your answers with mine. So pause it and then come back and check your answers. So H goes with T, J goes with R, and K goes with S. Okay, so H and T are the exact same. So in order to find A, we can set that equal to 51 and then solve. 6A equals, why is it doing that to me? 6A equals 54. Okay, divide by 6 on both sides, you get A equals 9. Then for my B, I have an H. J is the same as R, so J is 83. So then I can set it up as the same way that I did the last one, do 51 plus 83 plus 7B minus 10 equals 180. And then combine like terms and solve. So 51, 83, and negative 10 is 124 plus 7b equals 180. Subtract the 124 from both sides, you get, whoops, not 180. You get 7b equals 56, and then divide by 7 on both sides, you get b equals 8. Going on to 17, Walter sketched the diagram below. He claims it shows that the two polygons are congruent. What information is missing to support his claim? In order for any figure to be congruent, you have to have matching sides and angles. So all the angles need to be congruent too. This is just saying that the sides are the same. That does not mean that the angles are the same. Okay, for number 18, so I'm going to draw these two pictures. In triangle MAP and triangle TIE, angle A and angle I are congruent. Okay, so these two are congruent. Angle P is congruent to angle E. What is the relationship between M and T? So for part A, according to my theorem 4-1, angle M should be congruent to angle T by theorem 4-1, which means that if you have two angles in two different figures that are congruent to each other, the third angles are congruent. Okay, then going on to B, if the measure of angle A is 52 and the measure of angle P is 36, what is the measure of angle T? So we already know that angle M and angle T are congruent. So what we can do is add up 52 plus 36 plus the measure of angle T, set it equal to 180, and solve for whatever T is. So 52 and 36 would be 88, plus measure of angle T equals 180. And then if I subtract 88 from both sides, I get the measure of angle T is 92 degrees. And if T is 92 degrees, that means M is also 92 degrees. Okay, go ahead and do the homework check that is on Canvas. It's not that many questions. Make sure that you are following the directions. I think you do have to embed a couple pictures on there. If you need help with anything, let me know. Send me an email and get your stuff done. Again, if you are struggling with stuff or you can't, get onto the internet or Wi-Fi, please email me. Have a great day, guys. Bye.